All right, well, okay, now
Okay.
it's recording. Hello, everyone. Welcome.
I don't see anyone else joining.
Okay, I see. Yes, I see.
Oh, here I do. Okay.
Okay, so
It's showing at the
Jane,
top.
we're recording. So so if we could just okay, welcome everyone to the Torah of our lives. People are coming in. If you could please make sure that you are muted when you come in, and if possible, turn off your video. We're going to just focus on our special guest tonight, Rebecca Lippmann. So in a few moments, we will start our interview. We're a few minutes before 8, but welcome everyone. Uh-oh, my dog is barking. We don't want that.
Can you mute your dog?
It asks, you got it. Do we press got it?
Yes.
All right, we're going to keep letting people in to the Zoom, and Jane, you can keep on doing that, but we're going to get started here. I welcome you all to Temple Sinai's Torah of Our Lives, and I'm so excited to have our special guest star tonight, Rebecca Lippmann, with us. We're going to make sure that everyone else is muted, and we are also recording this. It should say recording in progress, correct?
Yes.
Yes, recording in progress. Okay, good. So I'm going to exit out of this share so that everyone can see lovely Rebecca. And you may want to put it on speaker view so that you can see when Rebecca and I are speaking with one another. And Jane will keep letting people in. But if everyone could stay muted except for Rebecca and myself until we come to the questions and answers, we will have time that everyone can ask their own questions. So Rebecca, welcome.
Happy to be welcomed.
Yes, it's so lovely to see you here. Can you face your light a little bit more so we can see your beautiful face, because you're half in shadow.
Okay, so.
There you go. Yeah, that's a little better, yes. Okay, great. So I am so excited to have Rebecca with us this evening. She has quite a life story. For those who may not have been present for any of our Torah of Our Lives sessions before, this idea is that I feel that we have such a wonderful and varied congregation with people of so many different backgrounds, so many different ages, demographics, and life stories. And I have invited those who wish to share them to come on with me and to discuss with me a little bit about their lives. And I do have a little bit of a pre-interview with them so we can determine what is best to share. But Rebecca has so much life experience and lessons to offer that I'm so pleased that she has decided to join us tonight. So first of all, Rebecca, you look a lot younger than you are, but I did ask her permission to ask this. I would not ask this of a guest without their permission, but do you mind sharing how young you are?
Well, I'll be 94 as of September 2022.
Uh-huh.
I guess so that I'll get to that period.
Okay, you're freezing a little bit like you did before. Maybe you can put
Okay.
that,
Getting
we
close.
fixed this earlier today
Okay.
with the freezing. So I think it was that thing you pulled closer to you so that.
Yeah,
it,
I think I'll get closer. Okay.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
So Rebecca said she's turning 94, God willing, this September, right? Wonderful,
On
fabulous.
Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah.
On Rosh Hashanah.
Oh,
Wow, what a way to start the new year. That's fabulous, really wonderful. And as you're going to find out, Rebecca definitely has all of her marbles, and that means real intelligence and knowledge on her part too, because you're going to find out that she's very well educated. So first of all, let's talk about your Jewish journey and how it began. I know that you are a first generation born American. And how did that affect you? How did you grow up Jewishly with your parents?
Well, it wasn't easy, but I'm happy that I had that experience. So I spoke Yiddish as a little, and of course, when I went to kindergarten and first grade, I'm speaking Yiddish and nobody understood about. So I did a lot of crying, but so I realized and start getting with it, I wouldn't enjoy my experience. So I learned very quickly. And at home, we spoke Yiddish. As I improved in my English, my mother was able to so little English because when she came to America, the first thing they become citizens. So they did go to a school that was very close to their home. And it was a very happy day for my mother when she became a citizen. Mm-hmm. She did have a friend who wanted to become a citizen who used to visit. She would ask me questions because I knew a little English. And it was what she was when she too became a citizen. That really meant something to immigrants when they were coming in. They knew this was really the golden Medina, the land of gold. And they loved it in America, even though they were a low man on the pole. Mm-hmm. And it was hard. They were not wealthy. They didn't have much, but it was home. We kept Shabbos and we had the delicious, the Shabbat. And my father, of course, went to a day when he wasn't working as a carpenter. And he was very.
I'm just going to pause you for just a minute, Rebecca, because you keep freezing. Oh. I'm hoping that if you face the camera and you face the microphone, hopefully you won't freeze as much. I'm sorry about that. And folks who are just joining us, it's not your computer. This was happening earlier with Rebecca's computer. I thought we had it fixed, but unfortunately it's doing it again. So, okay. Right. So I'll just fill everyone in that you, your parents were immigrants, and you were just discussing your mother's becoming a citizen and how important that was to her. Where did you grow up?
This was in Newark, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in an integrated area, mm-hmm. so that is a Black cannot say that we didn't have a good neighborhood. We all got along, and it was the way it was. We helped each other. In fact, I had some wonderful neighbors who taught me how to plant. and grow flowers. And they also showed me how to spread with rags. So I would always visit them and they showed me how to make these little circles and with the material covering a round cardboard. And we would sew all around and make loads of these circles. And that became a quilt or whatever you wanted to make. So my experience, pretty wonderful with Black people.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, one situation got me. There was a gentleman who walked by and he had his mouth twisted. There's a name for that disease. Do you know what that is? I can't recall the name, but
Okay.
my father also developed something similar at the same time when this gentleman, Black gentleman, walked by. And I stopped and talked to him because my father was cured by going to the Beth Israel hospital. They gave him heat treatments. So I stopped him and told him to go to Beth Israel hospital because of my father. He listened to me. And then when I saw him, he looked great. So
Wow, wonderful. Good for you. Good for you.
I was not afraid of anybody. It
Uh-huh.
seemed that I didn't have fear
Right.
because my father sort of instilled in me, God is there. God is always there. And my mother, she kept a good Jewish home, and we just didn't live in fear because we weren't in a fearful neighborhood.
Mhm.
So my early life was very, very good and pleasant. And Papa always went to shul, and a couple of times he'd take me with him. And I was impressed by something that he did. He would collect money, funds for people that would come
For
to
tzedakah.
tzedakah,
Mhm.
but this was a place, was a room where they fixed it up so that any stranger that would be coming to Newark, they, Jewish, I'm sure they were Jewish, and they would be able to have a meal there. They could stay, I think the maximum would be 2 weeks. And it was a place to get started. And my father did take me there once, and I was impressed. So it was so clean and nice. It was so well taken care of.
So this was an apartment. Let me just explain. This was an apartment, because you told me about this earlier. This was an apartment that your father helped to make sure it was ready so that any guests that would come into the community who needed a place to stay for Shabbos or for whatever, there would always be an apartment for any guests of the community. And that's really wonderful. I've never heard of a community doing that. And that's a wonderful tzedakah that they did.
That was good. And I think when you asked me my Jewishness, he didn't tell me about being kind to people. You know, words mean nothing sometimes. They go right through your head. But seeing these little things made me aware. And then as I got older, I learned new terms so I could express what he was doing. This was a form of his compassion for others. And if a person had a problem, I didn't understand how this would work out. He didn't have a telephone at that time. We didn't have one. But people would find him, and he would find out that they needed something. They needed a crib. He would go around and see who could get a crib for him, and he would bring it to these people. So this is what I saw. Now, my mother also, she had baby clothes for my sister and myself, and I guess for my brother too. And she kept the clothes. But she knew of a family. This was very, very difficult for me when she took me to visit them. The family had 2 children. And those days they would call them, I don't even like to use the term, so I won't use it, but
Yeah.
they held their head, they couldn't even hold their heads up. And they were going to be taken away from them. But my mother brought the clothes there. And when I saw the children, and that really had such an effect, I can't forget it. And that taught me more compassion. So that I think the Jewishness came through the different events that I was involved in with my family.
That's wonderful. It's wonderful that they taught you these Jewish values without having to tell you that they were
No.
Jewish values. This
It's-
Menschlichkeit that they had and that they passed to you. And I guess to your siblings too, right?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
my son, I guess he caught the disease. When he
Well,
sees a cat-
we'll go back.
Oh,
We'll come back
okay.
to the disease. 'Cause
Okay.
we haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
So first, let's talk about you growing up though.
Okay.
So you told me that you had some really great opportunities as a teenager and as a young woman.
Oh,
And you want to talk a little bit about that and what you attribute these opportunities, because you came from a home where you didn't have very much. You were
No.
not wealthy people. So
No.
how did you achieve these opportunities?
Well, my father again didn't do that much talking to me, but he made sure that I would go get a Jewish education. Now, he was very Orthodox, but he heard of the Plout Memorial Hebrew School, free school, and he registered me there. And of course, it was Reform, and that was the beginning of my Reform education. I had a magnificent education.
And by the way, this is the same Plout whose name we call when we say, open your Plout commentary. It's called that because he was the editor of that commentary.
Mhm.
Yes.
That's exactly right.
Yes.
And that little school, I think, helped make me become a mensch in many ways. They taught me Hebrew, and what else they did, they exposed me to things my parents could never take me to. They would take us on trips every year as we got older. They would take us to see the first play I ever saw on Broadway was Oklahoma. And that opened my eyes to the world. And of course, in the future, I made sure I saw all the different plays because of that introduction. It was wonderful. And as I grew older, I became graduated from the school. My mother and father, my father never really visited, but my mother always came to these events, and my sister and brother.
And then you taught in the school, right? You taught for a while in the school?
I didn't teach in that school. They were the ones that got me my first job. But when I got older and went to Montclair, that's when I learned much more about things, but I didn't want to jump to that so fast. I'll go back to where you wanted me to be.
Okay, sure.
So what was the next question you had?
Well, I was asking about your opportunities, because you told me that you had a wonderful series of, I don't know what you want to call it, either shared things or lucky things that happened to you that set you on your path.
Okay, well, I always say God is always with me. And it was through other people. And my neighbor downstairs, Mrs. Baskin, may she rest in peace, had a daughter who worked at a bakery. And it's famous, a famous bakery in Newark, New Jersey, Lehrhoff's. So she quickly captures me and says, Becky, you got to go over to Wiggler's. There's another bakery there. There's an opening. You go and get a job. So of course I listened to her, and I got the job, and I worked on Saturdays and Sundays at that time. And whenever there was a holiday, I would also work. So at that time, I could get more rolls into one bag than anybody else could. And I enjoyed being there. And they were very generous. They let us take cake home and bread as much as we wanted. And it was a good experience. And I worked there until I got married. So picture this, I guess it was from 16 until 22, around that time. So it was many years, and they made my wedding cake. So that was a very wonderful experience too. And they were very nice to me. And I kept asking for increases. You know, you start out, what was it, 75 cents an hour? And after a while, I figured I was worth a little bit more. There's like so many rolls in that bag. And then I went up to, I think, about $2 an hour. And I was very satisfied. I didn't bother them anymore for a while. So that was a good experience. And this little religious school also, after I went through post-graduation, and I went to the Hebrew high school that they recommended, which was wonderful. And by going there and taking Spanish at the same time, when I took the Spanish, I learned the conjugations, and then I began to understand the conjugations in Hebrew. In the beginning, I had difficulty understanding them, but when I learned it in Spanish at that time, so now when I try to talk Spanish, I talk Hebrew and a little Spanish, so I'm a little fadreit there. But
And a little Yiddish too.
and
I
a
bet
little
that
Yiddish.
comes
But I
back
don't
too.
bring the Yiddish only when I'm kibitzing around. So, what else? You have to start prodding me with those questions.
Well, why don't you tell us about your own education, because you were very motivated to receive your own education and to achieve.
Oh.
And how did you do that?
Well, I worked in the bakery and I became friendly with this little old lady. I don't think she was old, but I was young, so she seemed old to me. And we talked, and I found out her daughter was a music teacher. And also she was going to Montclair Teachers College. So we talked. She'd come in every Friday for Shabbos. She'd get the challah and everything there, because Leerhoff and Wigler, they were the best bakeries around. And then there was this movie I was telling you about. He was a Polish composer, and he played this marvelous music that I just fell in love with. And I asked this little lady, I can't remember her name, if I could take lessons with her daughter. And she told me yes. And I went there and I paid her $2, I think it was, for the lesson. And while we were talking, she said she went to Montclair, and I guess I was in the last years of high school. And I said, I'd love to go to Montclair where you're going. And she got me an application, and I filled it out, and lo and behold, they accepted me. So again, I didn't do anything, but our creator put this nice little lady in the bakery so that we could talk. And I didn't learn the piano lessons too well because I didn't have a piano. I only practiced at my neighbor's house. And I went to Montclair, and I learned a lot there. And I got a couple of lower marks because of my lack of language. Mr. Pettigrove, my English teacher, gave me I think a D. He was talking about Ozymandias. Who knew it was a vase? So, you had to explain what these things were. And I did not know what a vase was. I didn't even have a vase in the house. So I made up my mind, nobody's ever going to give me a D. So I did a little reading and learning. And it was I did a lot of homework by going by bus, of course. We had 3 buses. I had to take 3 buses to get to Montclair. But nothing bothered me. I never missed a day. And that was one of the wonderful experiences.
And you taught yourself a lot of English through reading.
Right?
Well,
that was when I was a kid, in 4th, 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
When I really started to read the books, we had a library time. Mm-hmm. And I started with those blue fairy tale books. Well, when the teacher was teaching math, I was already reading the book, and she put me in the corner, stop reading. It was a funny experience.
I also preferred reading to math.
But I really wish I did the math, because I know I really haven't mastered my algebra, and I think geometry. All these things are so good for the mind.
But you ended up actually becoming a teacher and teaching kids. So tell us about that, about your going to college.
Going to college was a wonderful experience, and I had some good teachers.
How did you get in, and how did you pay, and how did it?
Well, at that time, tuition was $60, and I took a work scholarship so that I could pay the $60 because my parents couldn't afford to give it to me, and so that got me through. I think it was $60 a semester, and the interesting thing is I worked in this office, and there was one woman who I don't think she liked me. I think it might be because I was Jewish when I think about it in the past. And she would go to all the students and say, "Is Rebecca bothering you?" And she did this often in the wintertime. But then when I worked in the summer, I used to also work there in the summer so that I could get funds when I needed it. And she'd be so nice to me. And then the winter could come again. She made my life miserable. And I even talked to one of the teachers and they said, "I can't do anything about it."
But despite that, you did well in college, though. Despite that, you did well.
I would cry and pray, a lot of praying. And yeah, and I overcame that. And I found out after I got out of the school, out of Montclair, that she had a brain tumor. It was Dr. Heimer's. She was a tough-looking German woman, strong-looking woman, and but she was so nice to me this summer. So I felt sorry for her. But I didn't ever want to see her again. That was sure, for sure. So that was one of
that was college. That was college, and then you became a teacher, right? You became certified as a teacher.
I became a teacher. But while I was going, I was taking elementary courses, and whenever I could, I took extra courses. So I ended up getting a high school certificate and also an elementary school certificate. And so that was a good thing that I would say, full of energy that I could do that. I had a lot of energy. So thank God for that.
You were working a lot and you were also studying.
And then I also worked I told you I worked in a bakery. And then lo and behold, I got another one of these wonderful jobs. We had on High Street in Newark, New Jersey, they had a wonderful YMCA Y.
A Y, yeah.
A Y. It was, it had everything. They wrote about it. They'd have plays. I was in a play once. I was not leading lady there, but I was a servant. And it was okay. But it was a good experience. And they had dances. Oh, every Saturday we could go to dances. We had a place to go to. And if for some reason I couldn't go there, I'd go to the church. They had dances there too. I was very ecumenical. And I had nice Christian neighbors so that I could be ecumenical.
It was very open-minded of your parents to be so integrated in the community and to have you go and do all of these things.
It wasn't that way, no.
No?
She had a nice neighbor who was very kind to her, but no, she was more interested in the Jewish people. But this one neighbor, she was English, and she was very nice when my mother would get these attacks, gallbladder attacks.
Oh.
And when I got married, I'm jumping, and I insisted.
Oh, wait. I want you to talk about the story of how you met your husband, though, because that's a really amazing story.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm not very fluid right now.
That's okay.
All right. How did I meet my husband? Again, Montclair Teachers College had a trip that was scheduled. If we could get enough people to go, we would go to New England and Canada. And And those days I was very outgoing. And it took me nothing to say to somebody, don't you want to go on a trip? And I tried to get as many as I could. And then they had enough people. So we went on this trip to Canada. And we were at the Chateau Frontenac. And two nice boys came up to us. I was with a nice blonde friend. She looked great. And we started to talk. And who do we meet? Murray Berman and Sheldon Wolf. So I said, my name is Becky Abramowitz. It was such a funny situation because they did start off by saying, parlez-vous français? They probably were nice French girls. And we talked, we took a walk on the plains of Abraham. And I remember my future husband said to me, maybe I can come and visit you. I said, no, you've ruined my reputation. You know, we were very conscious of how to behave. You know, Jewish girls, we were taught, you know, be a guten Mädel. And it registered. So,
and then you said a prayer, right? After you met them.
This is an unbelievable situation. This was part of a tour that I took. So we went to Saint Anne de Beaupré. This was a church, and there were 39 steps. And this is what everybody said: if you walk the 39 steps, and you make 3 wishes, and they'll all come true. Well, I did make 3 wishes because I figured, look, I'm here, maybe it'll be good. So I wished for a job when I got out because I didn't have a job. I was graduated, but I didn't have a job. And prior to that, though, I took a course in library science, and I had this wonderful teacher. And you know, when you're young and lively, and I was making everyone laugh. So I had a wonderful time with this particular woman who was running the class, and she happened to be a principal, but that comes later. And so I prayed that I'd get a job, and then also that I would meet a nice boy and that I would have children. So after the trip and I'm home, I get a call from Sheldon Wolf because we met, and we started our friendship. And then ultimately on April 14th, we got married. I hate to say this, but I think that was the day Abraham Lincoln was shot. But that I happen to remember that because of the day.
It wasn't that year, though. You're not that old, Rebecca.
It was 1964 or something. And the things, you know, you try to remember something, you put it in your head.
Right.
Let's see now. I was going to tell you.
So you got married, and the other wish about finding a job, how did that happen?
Yes. I guess I wasn't nervous when I was with you alone, but I'm a little nervous.
That's okay.
I got a letter from this lovely lady, and unfortunately, it's so many years ago, I don't recall. She asked me if I would be a teacher in her school. So it was a 5th grade, and it was in Garfield, New Jersey. And at that time, I was living in Newark. Well, you know, this thing called compassion. I saw that my future husband was traveling from Brooklyn to my house in Newark, and I was worried. At that time, I don't think they had the roadways that they have now. So it took many hours to get home. So I said, oh, no, we don't have to wait until June to get married. We'll get married in April. Dummy. So, so I had to travel early in the morning and get to school. And that took trains and buses, but I did it. And so I got married in April, and I had to give in my letter of resignation because I could not go in June, and say, you know, continue after June. But you know, you get married early sometimes when you're not privy to all the things you should know, you get pregnant.
Mhm.
I said to my husband, I think it's very important that I continue my education because I already took a few courses for my master's degree. They gave us a lot of things at Montclair. And he agreed it would be good in case something happened and we need money, that would serve us well. So I took the courses and I managed to get my master's degree, and I was happy about that. And then I had a period of being a true mother. I took care of my house and cooked and Jewish cooking and all. And but I could see I could use a little money. So it so happens that Abe Friedman, he was a member of our temple and still is, right?
Mhm.
He was, I think, on the executive board of a synagogue that was not too far from where I was living in Queens. And I applied for a position and I got the job teaching religious school in one room. It was amazing what was going on, how it was all divided up. And we all taught with our blackboard. Hopefully they learned something because it was quite noisy and it was not easy, but that was an experience. And
But Abe remembered years
Abe
later when you met
remembered me.
again. Yeah.
Abe remembered me. One day we were talking, he said, you know, I remember you when you were teaching at Beth Sholem, that was the name of it, on Union Turnpike. I don't know if anybody knows Union Turnpike. Yes. So that was an experience. I had my first, no, that was not my first. That was my third child. That's when I started to really teach in the beginning.
Mhm.
So from then on, I kept teaching, although that's not entirely true. Remember I said the school, the Plow Memorial, did manage to give me an opportunity to teach. They had me take an interview and I got the job. And while I was there, that would have been the first time. And then wherever I went or moved, I managed to get the jobs. So and while
And
I
we
was
talked
doing
about
that,
that. Yeah, Rebecca, you and I talked about that, and I was very impressed by what you said in terms of why you believe that you had these opportunities in your life.
well, every time I did something, I'd meet somebody and they would make a recommendation and my life would change again. And when I was living in near Union Turnpike,
Mhm.
I decided I had to do more for the world. You know how we are, have to do something. So I joined the League of Women Voters and I met my dear friend, may she rest in peace, Doris Ellis. So Doris Ellis was teaching at Manhasset High School. And she heard there was an opening for a business teacher. Now, I did take the business curriculum and English when I was in high school. So she recommended that I apply. And lo and behold, I got this job teaching typing because I learned how to type, you know, and did shorthand and all kinds of things. And that was again due to Doris.
Mhm.
She was one of my friends and she made it her business for me to get a job.
Mhm.
Wonderful person.
Mhm.
And we were friends for a lifetime.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So you had 5 sons eventually.
Yes.
So, and somewhere along the way, Sheldon you discovered with Sheldon that he had Huntington. So you want to talk a little bit about that and
Oh,
how that
actually-
affected you and the family?
Actually, when I had one of the brisses and members of his family came, I saw one uncle. It looked as if he had Parkinson's disease. He kept making movements and all. I looked, but I didn't think, it was busy, a busy life. And then on another occasion, I met another relative that also had some movements, and she never looked happy, always looked angry. And that's another thing. People that have Huntington's sometimes have a lot of anger inside, and they want to hit somebody. They'll do that. So it can be a very frightening thing. So sometimes things would happen and I wouldn't understand it, but I would not make a big deal about it. When he would get angry all of a sudden out of nothing. Anyway, so this is the kind of a home I was living in. And I blame myself, something that I did, which was not a wise thing to do. I had a lot to learn yet. So we had our children, we had our bar mitzvahs, we had good times. We invited people. We really had a good life, but there were moments when it was not so good. But being the way I am, I would say, can't get any worse, and this too shall pass. So I could tolerate more than I should have. But that's life, because you have a family, and what's more important? It's maintaining that family as best as you can, if you can. Sometimes it's impossible for people to do that. But my tolerance level and my energy level was high, which is to my advantage. So I could do more than I should have done. But anyway, that is part of my life there. What else did you?
So you discovered along the way that Sheldon had Huntington's disease, and I don't know if people who are listening all know what Huntington's is. So if you want to just give a little bit of explanation about that.
Huntington's disease captures your whole body. It captures your mind so that you no longer make wise decisions. It captures your eating habits because you find it hard to swallow. This is as it gets worse. And you can't speak too clearly because it affects your vocal cords and all. And then in some cases, this is before they have the medication, your hand jumps out, your legs move, and your body moves involuntarily. So you're not in control of anything. And happy to say, because of my reading, I've learned that they now have a way of cutting out certain genes. They're just in the elementary stage.
Wow.
And now I understand when they said a person that takes the test and they have repeats, it means that the gene repeats itself over and over. And at the higher the repeats, the worse the disease. So when they have less repeats, it's not as bad. And
right. And because it was genetic, you found out, you tested your sons.
Yeah, they all were tested. And my son, who was a doctor, he was a doctor already. He met a lovely girl, and she decided he should be tested. And I had a feeling that he might have had it because I saw some behaviors that I figured weren't quite right. So when he told me, I wasn't surprised. And then I noticed the others when they were starting to lose their job. One was an accountant and he was good, but then he stopped paying his income tax. As one of my dear friends in the temple saved my life. He's right there, Bob, and I thank you forever and for your wife. And never forgot what you did for me. And he made it possible for me to do some accounting and contacting an organization that helped me reduce the amount of money that he owed because he didn't pay taxes. So you see, another person,
Mm.
why did I have Bob help me? Because
No.
he was a good person.
Mhm.
And this is the kind of thing that would happen very often.
Right.
And today, even today, I have a neighbor across the street. We love each other. He and his wife are just wonderful. And just like that, we have a good relationship. I'm 90 and they're about 60. And it's
Mhm.
wonderful.
Yeah.
So,
But let's get back to this Huntington's, because
oh,
it turned out that 4 out of your 5 sons had it,
yes,
and you
yes,
lost them.
yes, yes.
So you've had a lot of loss. So you
Well,
lost
a lot of
Sheldon.
my friends here came to most of the funerals.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So again, that to me was very comforting.
But
And
I know that a lot of us, you know, I'm a mom myself, and I just can't imagine losing 4 out of your 5 children and your husband to this disease, and watching your loved ones as they're progressively getting worse. How did you keep going? What kept you going through all of this?
well, of course, the first one, I stayed in bed for a while. I was running a play school, and luckily I had a wonderful assistant. So she helped me out. And again, I had a wonderful assistant who took care while I was under. I wasn't able to handle things. And then I began to think, crying, I looked terrible. And it was a terrible thing. And I was blowing my nose. It looked awful. And I said, this is no way to live. And I have other children. I got to take care of this. I got to get out of this. And then I thought some more. Nobody lives forever. And then I remembered a little poem, I think a 4th or 5th grade teacher taught me. If death were a thing that money could buy, the rich would live and the poor would die. But God in his mercy has it so that the rich and the poor together must go. For some reason, that always remained in my mind. And then I began to think, when I would do the lawn, and I would plant things, and I would wonder why one of the plants would die and the others wouldn't die. So I began to think, that's much like life. So I began to think organically, so that what nature gives us gives me clues to my thinking. I feel that if God wanted us to be miserable over time, it wouldn't have any birds around chirping away, and they wouldn't have flowers growing out of weeds. Weeds can make beautiful flowers. I mean, if the Creator is creating all of this over billions of years, didn't have to make all these lovely things. So I began to think, death is part of life, because look what happened to my good flowers. I took good care of them. I put them away for the winter, but they went. So these are the things, the more I did for myself, the more I began to get insights to the way I want to live. I wanted it to be the best life I can live. I love my home. I used to love my car, but had an accident on Rosh Hashanah, mind you.
I know, I remember.
And that's what made me give up my car, because I figured, Rebecca, you're already 92. Time to give it up. So,
well, Rebecca, you are such a model to me of strength and optimism. And I know for others as well. I can only imagine how many people that you have affected. You talk about how others have affected you in your life. I'm sure that you paid that forward many, many times in your life. But let me ask you one more question, and then I'm going to ask those who are here if they have questions as well. But where do you believe God is in your life? Do you feel God in your life?
well, I wake up, I wash my hands so I'll be pure before the God. And before I go to bed, I say the Shema. And sometimes I'm in a hurry in the morning, so I don't say it in the morning. And I like to make a blessing before I eat my breakfast, because I'm so thankful that I have my one son. And if I didn't have him, I don't know if I'd feel the same way. But I'm so happy that I have at least my son, Martin. So my life was one of appreciation. They all managed to live until, well, the first one died very early, 23, but the second one, he died 54, and the others 59, and my last son managed to get to 60. He was a few days short. And so they lived, they became people, they worked, but when I could see the onset, I could see the beginning of what was to come. So it wasn't new to me. I was prepared. God prepared me for everything. I don't like to say God. I don't like that name anymore. I want to call it the Creator.
Okay.
If you don't mind. Because when people think of God, it's a person, and I don't want that to that. You know, it's this force. See,
It's interesting. We just talked about that today. Earlier today, I taught a class and we talked about creation and the divine in our lives. So that's very much in keeping with that.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to open up the floor. If people have questions, if you could put up your little hand, and Jane is my co-host here today, and you can call on people as they.
Yeah, I see your names. I'm glad you're
So
here.
I think Jane is first. So why don't you ask the first question, Jane?
Okay, I have a question right away. When you talked about your early life in Newark and you started to go to a Reform temple in Newark, I'm wondering if that was the original B'nai Jeshurun.
Oh, no, B'nai Jeshurun was Reform. They were very classical Reform. And that was in a very nice neighborhood. And but the wonderful thing about this little school, all the rabbis, the famous rabbis, they promised to rotate and come on Shabbat to this little Clout Memorial and give us a sermon. I didn't understand one word, but it was so great seeing them. What did I know? I didn't have any background at that time, but it was so beautiful. These people, elegant people, dressed beautifully, comfortable people, very comfortable, well-educated, and they came to this little school on Prince Street. And those that lived in Newark, they have written about Prince Street. It was like the Mecca of, no, it's not the Mecca, because that's a holy place. It was like a shuk. They had everything on Prince Street. So people would love Prince Street. And so did I. I must tell you one thing, if I may. When I first got my job at the bakery, I got a salary, got money. And I went to the store on Prince Street and I bought 2 sets of dishes. And how did I get home? I took a taxi, that was unbelievable. And when I got home and a hamper for my mother. And my mother was so upset. Why are you spending all your money? What are you doing? I couldn't believe how upset she was. And I only wanted it to be nice, to have pretty dishes for Shabbos and the holiday. But that was the way life is, And I was also taking away her role. I began realizing this, my mother, she wanted to be the boss. And here I'm coming in. Yeah, I think about a lot of things. When you're too much energy can do damage.
Interesting. That's very insightful. You didn't have that insight back then, though, when you were.
You have to be 90 to know that.
Well, thank you. One of the questions was, what are the lessons you can teach us? You've been teaching us all along. Okay, anyone else? Who else would like to ask Rebecca something?
Ready?
I just want to say, Rebecca, I just want to say, this is
Oh,
Rosie.
Rosie.
But
Okay.
I see a number of people.
Oh, I thought Betty was speaking.
I have been, I have
Let Rosie go.
Oh, who's speaking?
Who was
Rosie.
speaking?
It's Rosie now. Rosie,
Betty, I'll get back to you, okay?
sure.
I have been friend with Rebecca for many, many years. We
Oh,
have
yeah.
spent holidays together. Remember, Rebecca? And I always admire you and love you. Keep it up.
Rosie, I'm looking for you, Rosie. Oh, there you go. I love your hairdo.
My hairdo, I don't do anything. It's a medication, I think.
I had a mouth like
Wonderful.
that once. Once I had curls, curls. did it.
No, nothing.
Anyway, well, I remember you were the first person that invited me to your home. And that made me feel like $1 million. I really appreciated it.
It was a pleasure when you came.
Well,
Hmm.
you were very gracious and you opened my heart. You really did. It was very nice.
It was a pleasure, Rebecca.
I don't know. Sometimes I guess I can scare people. I may have fallen.
That's me.
Glenn might know about that.
Do you know
Glenn-
Rose, do you know Rosie from Florida or New
No,
Jersey?
no. She took it upon herself to just invite me, and
In Florida or New Jersey?
Florida.
here in
In
Florida.
Florida.
No, she's
So I
Friend
think
from
Betty
Florida.
is next. So Betty, did you have a question?
Betty,
Yes.
Betty.
Hello, hello. Well,
Hello,
first of
Betty.
all, I wanted to let everybody on screen know that even though you all know that my husband is somewhat of a techie, it was Rebecca Lippmann who probably 6 or 7 years ago said, you really should get a GPS because I have one and it's wonderful. And I did. And thank you for that.
Oh, that's-
The other thing is I didn't hear any mention of Erwin Lippmann, and I think that's a
Oh,
beautiful story as well.
oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's hear that.
you'll have to invite me again because.
No, now.
No.
Oh,
You can tell
Erwin.
us.
Well, thanks again to Temple Sinai. He came, his wife died, and a few months later, his daughter died.
Oh.
So he was in mourning, and he was looking for a place to go, and I guess he was looking for companionship. So he mentioned the fact that he was with his grandsons, teaching them algebra. And you know what I felt about math. I did not feel I knew enough. I said, algebra? I would love to learn algebra. He says, oh, fine, I'll get you a book. So he gets me a book, he calls me up and we take lessons. And before you know it, I'm going to the movies. And before you know it, I'm going out. It was the best time of my life. When I was a teenager, I was so busy with everything, school and working and all. I really wasn't an adolescent. I didn't have much. I became an adolescent with her. So that was a good one.
Aw. That's
And
wonderful.
just so you can all get a picture, anybody who didn't know, Erwin was, I don't know, was he over 6 feet?
Oh, he was much taller than I was. yes.
Much taller. They made the best couple ever.
Aw.
But you know what I loved about your husband?
Mhm.
In the beginning, I saw how he asked his questions about Judaism. And I talked to him and I said,
He's
"Gotta
here, by the
come."
way.
Oh, remember? I got you to
Yeah.
come.
Yes.
And then now you outsmart me all the time.
Oh.
No, I don't.
Questions are magnificent.
never.
Mhm.
It was
Okay,
wonderful to you.
I'll let everybody else ask or comment more.
Other questions?
Nobody?
Nobody. I can't imagine.
So nobody has a question. How long?
Oh,
will you
Elisa. Elisa.
Oh, Alyssa,
There's
good.
Elisa. Uh-huh.
Unmute, Alyssa.
You're still muted.
Okay.
There you go.
I have a very special place in my heart for you, Rebecca. And I'll never forget you invited me to your home for lunch or something. It was quite a while ago. And I was so impressed at how you had your life organized. and we were so proud of everything that you had. And I felt like $1,000,000. I really was honored to be in your home.
Well,
You've always been a tremendous support. I would say that I keep learning from you. And I know, and you've been very much encouraging me all these years that I've been in Temple Sinai, ever since I've met you.
well, let me tell you,
Thank you for that.
Elisa,
Yes.
you have choices. Everybody has a choice.
Yes.
You could be miserable, angry, or you can say to yourself, I have one time around,
Mhm.
and why am I going to mess it up? What a gift to be on this earth. There's no other planet that we know that has people. So
Right.
I think we have the privilege of being here for how long God gives us. Not God, the Creator gives us. I'm trying to use that word because I really feel that. I feel that I am so thankful that I've had a chance to feel so many things and do so many things. And people like me and some don't like me. And I had to get used to that too, And I said, okay, I wish I knew them better and try to find out why. There's always a reason. Anybody that makes themselves sound too good, it can't be true. But what I'm saying is the way I feel, and I can't help it. I'm just me. And I don't think I want to be anybody else. I can't be. I don't know. I'll borrow your good ideas. I won't steal anything that is licensed to be yours, but wearing something nice, I might want to try wearing your thing.
We have a few people who would like to ask a question.
Okay,
Steve has got his hand up for a while.
Who was
Steve
that?
Delray.
Steve. Oh,
And then-
Steve,
and then
I learned so
Sue.
much from him. Oh, I learned so much from you.
Hi,
After Steve,
Rebecca.
then
So
Sue, and then Judy.
it's not so much a question, Jane, is I don't know how many of you know that Rebecca was one of our most prolific volunteers at the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, and I was a supervisor of her unit. And the thing that was really terrific is when she came to the point that she was not driving anymore, she volunteered to become part of the walking patrol. And so she
Wow.
was absolutely terrific. And the other thing is, a couple of weeks ago, Rebecca, when I was leading Torah study on Shabbat morning, you said, I really keep you on your toes. Well, I got to tell you, the feeling is mutual, and I'll see you this Shabbat too. Okay. You really are wonderful. And thanks for sharing with us tonight.
Well,
Sue
wonderful.
Wexler was next. Oh, Rebecca, did you want to comment?
It's just wonderful to see you and your wife there together helping each other. I love it. It's an organic thing. It's the way it should be when it's possible.
And it's wonderful that the
When it's
Tambers
possible.
join us from Texas,
and
that they're
all
still
the way
part of
from-
our community.
All the way from Texas. I
Right.
mean, this is what I call organic. Anything that we see that happens with people, these are the models for us to follow. That's anything that you see that pleases you becomes a model. And I look at people I'm trying to learn all the time. When I see Sue give a parashat, I love it the way you do it, Sue. You came to me with learn a little bit of Hebrew, but what you've done with that Hebrew is just wonderful. So you can't imagine how happy I am when you jumped over here.
Sue, excuse me. We want to get in a few questions or comments.
Okay.
Sue Wexler was next, and then Judy Berman.
Look, I don't know if she heard me.
Yes.
Okay, Rebecca, I just wanted to tell you, when I first wanted to learn Hebrew, to me, it was a language that I wanted to learn. I had studied Latin, French, Italian, German. Languages I learned a lot of them because I sang in all those languages. But Hebrew, I wanted to learn because I was Jewish. But to me, it was just a language, another language I was learning. But I took your class, the Aleph Bet class, and you made it a lot more than a language. You must have been some fabulous teacher, because it wasn't just Aleph Bet. It was that an Aleph has a meaning, a Bet has a meaning, and when you put it all together, it means something. And that woke a spark in me. That just was the beginning for me.
Oh, that's
And
wonderful.
look where it brought me. So thank you.
Well, you are magnificent. I tell you, all of you, Lynn, especially what she's done with this, what she's learned is a monumental. And I copy you now. I want to learn more.
Judy Berman, did you have a hand up before?
Yes,
Judy Herman? Yep.
yes. Rebecca is still teaching. She's been teaching ever since I know her at Temple Sinai. I took her Hebrew class. It was a 5-week intensive class that Rebecca gave. That prompted me to go on and learn more with Beverly Weiss, who also
Oh.
taught Hebrew at our temple. Rebecca knew Beverly well, I know.
You're a good friend.
And she's still an amazing teacher. She has so much knowledge to share. But the one thing that I just heard you say is, you are happy to be who you are, and you could go through this life being a miserable, sad person and being unhappy, or you can wake up every day saying, I'm here on earth for a reason, and I'm going to make it a good day. My mother felt very much the same way, and she sent that on to my sister and myself, and I'm so glad to hear you say that, Rebecca, because I think it's a really important trait in people.
Well,
It is. It's a
the
beautiful,
moment I wake
beautiful
up,
lesson.
the moment I
Absolutely.
wake up, I got to tell you this. The moment I wake up, I look in the mirror, say oy vey, and then I put makeup on.
Good for you, Rebecca.
Yes.
I see
You set
Maddie
a
Mogul.
wonderful example, Rebecca.
Thank you very much, Judy.
I see Maddie Mogul has her electronic hand up.
Can
Maddie,
you put on your camera, Maddie, so we can see you?
I'm looking for Maddie.
she's in the top
Oh,
corner.
that's Sue. I see Sue's hand. Sue, is that you?
No,
No, that's
Maddie
Maddie's
Mogul
hand.
seems to, yeah.
Yeah, hi. No, you're not going to see me on the camera now. You had
Oh.
your chance this afternoon.
Okay.
I'm looking for Maddie.
Then I was wearing my shidel. Now I'm not, and forget about it. But anyway, I just want to say that, Rebecca, you're so inspirational, that you have such a wonderful spirit, outlook on life. You overcame all these adversities, and I could see there were a lot of parallels in our lives, working your way through school, taking little jobs here and there. I was a teacher also, and got my master's and everything else. But it's true. Like, there are always two roads to take, and one of them, you don't know where it's going to lead. You could take the road to misery. You could take the road and have a positive attitude, and you certainly have a positive attitude, and it's just been delightful. Even though we've never met, I feel as though I know you very well, and I thank you for tonight's presentation.
Well, thank you. Well, it's wonderful being here, and
This is the cordon bleu.
Lynn has her hand up.
Yeah.
There's something else
I could
to
take this
share
to
about
the-
Rebecca. Strong-minded, determined, devoted to her family, but also to her sister and brother. And I think for those of us who've known Rivka, I can't call her Rebecca, I'm sorry. For those of us who've known Rivka for many, many years, the devotion to her siblings is extraordinary. I don't think we could ever forget how she would make sure that her brother and sister were able to join her for Yontif year after year when they were able to come into the sanctuary. And the devotion, her sister has passed, but the devotion still to her brother is just so loving in so many ways. And
I'm not demonstrative, but like my father, I do it. I don't think, I don't, there's things I should be saying, I love you and all that, but I just do it. I can't,
but
I can't be good. I wish I were more.
But Rivka,
I can say it so people know that I feel certain ways.
In your 90 years, you haven't forgotten the values that your parents taught you.
No,
That is really who you are.
That's right. And I honor them. I met a couple of nice boys and I said, I'm sorry. I'd love to marry you, but I can't. It would kill my mother and father. They had me. Because they did everything that they should have said to me. If they said it, I probably would have rebelled. But because I saw how they behaved, and it was all because of their Judaism. And I love Judaism because every time I have a question and I have to ask myself, what shall I do? My Judaism makes me do the right thing, always.
If I may, you just used a word that really in a great number of ways describes you. You have been a rebel about a lot of things. I remember those days when you and Helen Berger would argue a blue streak and I'd get between the two of you. You have a strong will and you were determined. I remember years back when you came back one morning and said, I think I'll go to Costa Rica. What do you think about that? and you made that trip to Costa Rica.
Yeah. In fact, God willing, I would like to make another trip there because there is a Jewish community there.
Yes, there is.
Yes, yes. And also an Amish community.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, that was part of the tour. These people, they pooled their money and they set up a little factory and a couple of things which eventually failed, unfortunately, but they worked it out so that they stay there and they live there. And they don't have an army. That's what impressed me. No army. And at that time, I think I had a woman president. That impressed me too.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Can I ask, Rebecca, how many years have you been at Temple Sinai?
I think, well, I owned this house 22 years, but I also lived 6 years in the other. I guess is it almost 30?
You were heading in that direction. You're a little bit beyond Betty, Eric, and I. Yes, you are.
But maybe you've been there. I was there before you, I believe.
Yes, just ahead of Betty, Eric,
A
and
little
I.
bit, yeah. So how many years are you there?
I think 27 years, Rebecca.
So then it's
I
getting
think.
close. Yeah. The years just went by, but it was a beautiful place. It was the best place to be for me. Oh, when all the things were going on, that was comforting. I had a place to go to. It was so important. And I appreciate it more now as I'm older and realize how it saved me in many ways from taking the other path.
Wow. Well, that's the importance of community. It really is. It really is. Does anyone else have a question or comment? If not, I think I speak for everyone, just how moving and inspiring your story tonight was, and how inspiring and moving, and you still have that liveliness you talk about when you were a kid. It's still inside you. And it still comes out, and it is so inspiring, so inspirational to all of us. So
I haven't grown up yet.
well, good.
What am I going to do when I grow up? I keep saying that.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this, Rebecca, Rithbel, whatever you would like to call yourself tonight. And please join us next month. And if any of you would like to be guests who have not been guests of our Torah of Our Lives, we would love to hear your stories as well. So get in touch with me.
And Rabbi, anybody that doesn't have anything to do on Saturday morning, or actually 12:30 your time, we'll be happy to see you on the Torah Study Zoom. We're talking about law, but that's, I just love that. So, yeah.
I do want to take your class that you're giving, I think, in the middle of the week.
I'm sorry, what was that, Rebecca?
I want to take Rabbi's class.
Oh, my class. Yes. We can talk about that after, but that would be wonderful. Yes, we'd love to have you.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
Thanks, everybody. Stay well.
Yeah.
Shabbat shalom, Steve and Lori.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you all.
Thank you, Rebecca, for all that you have done and all that you have been. It's a pleasure to know you.
Well,
Yes.
you
Thank
know,
you,
it's
Rebecca.
a pleasure to know you too. Don't be bad.
Marty, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Zeigezint, everybody.
Zeigezint.
Zeigezant.
Is it?
Bye.
And you
Bye-bye
can,
now.
Rebecca, instead of saying creator, you can also say Hashem. Hashem,
Hashem, that's right.
Hashem,
Hashem, the name, yes, the name.
Hashem.